Can you see it now? Geez, I hope it's not live now because I'm just sitting in the office. You're live. We're building an audience for you. Well, hello, everybody. I'm just waiting to get confirmation that we actually are live. Okay, tell me when you see me. Ah, yes. Hello, everybody. I just got notification from Free Spirit headquarters that it wasn't going live, even though I've been talking for half an hour already. Anyway, I'm hanging up now. Bye. Hi, I'm Kathy Doughty, and you are here with me live at Material Obsession. We've just had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'll just go back into our initial position and get going again. I had somebody helping me with my, hey, Helena, come help me, we're on now. Ah! Anyway, here we are in Material Obsession while we wait for my camera holder. This is one of the rooms, and it happens to be the quiet room at the moment, so we thought we would start in here. And this says, put on the mask, give yourself a fun look. Okay, I'd like to say thank you to Free Spirit for having me today and giving me an opportunity to talk about my collections of fabric that I've done with them and about Material Obsession. This is a shop that's been in existence for about 14 years, well, just over 14 years now, and I'm really proud to say that this is a place where we've concentrated on making an environment that makes people feel comfortable being creative. So that means that when you walk into this shop, everybody that works here is a quilter. Everybody that's here wants you to enjoy your experience as a quilter, and they want to offer you as much help and assistance as possible in making your project, because sometimes we get very narrowly focused in where we want to go, and having somebody to talk to helps us expand our ideas and to try some new things, because a creative process really is about stepping into the unknown. Hi, Isis. Oh, hi. Oh, this is fun. Now I can see everybody. Good. Take two.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so this is a great, I talk about it, and I want to talk about it at length as we go through the shop today, because I think it's really important that we keep shops alive. Meeting online is fantastic, and it's new to our generations of quilters, but there's nothing that beats face-to-face quilting and talking to people about what we're doing and sharing our lives and experiences. And I have to say that one of the most meaningful things about this business for me is the community that we've created, and the fact that I've shared the lives of so many quilters over the last years as they experienced their children growing up and their parents aging and maybe losing a spouse or having breast cancer. All these things are part of life, and that all of them get shared over the table in conversation. And I think that we really have to support our local businesses and local shops so that we have a place where we can congregate and meet. And yeah, I think that's really important. So I bang on about it a lot, but telling stories is best together, and I really like that. So Free Spirit did ask me to do this today in support of my latest collection, which is called Celebrate. It started with a very simple little drawing that I did. I'm just going to move.
Yeah.
You move around over there.
I will move.
It started with a simple little drawing that has some fun little animals on it. And I sort of have been fascinated with these animals for a long time, and a lot of it's because of the classes that we have here. Australia has a lot of English tradition in quilting, so we do a lot of broderie purse and a lot of hexagons and a lot of applique. And in doing that, you do tell your own very personal stories. And one of the stories that I learned at the table in my shop was about this prince who walked from Africa to Paris with a giraffe on a lead. And I've always thought that was a really hilarious kind of image, because as you know, imagine you're doing the dishes and looking out the window in your house, you know, just before you throw your pot out the window, and you see this guy walking up the street with a giraffe. I mean, how bizarre would that be? It's not like they could have seen a giraffe on David Attenborough's Planet TV show. So, you know, like, you think that doesn't look like a cow or whatever else you might have looked out the window. So, yeah, so that just sort of is where I started thinking about the, you know, the elephants and the giraffes, the camels and the monkeys. And then I thought, well, what if they were in a beautiful sort of Mexican-style pot instead of the flowers? So move over flowers, we've got the pot. So this particular print has the pots, whoops, on both sides. And then in the middle, they're sort of hanging off these chains, which is really in a nod to the construction and the structure of quilts. Hi there, everybody.
Okay, is that better? Oh.
Yeah. So this is our first time, obviously, so we were getting direction all the time. But with this, you can cut that to go horizontally, or you can cut it to go vertically. And in doing that, you can work within the structure of your quilt. So when I'm designing fabric, I'm always thinking about the structure of the quilt itself and how we might use the fabric to fill the spaces created in a quilt. So that might be a medallion, it might be sashing, it might be borders. The other thing that I do when I'm designing my fabric is I think about the personality of my customers, who are often have either a traditional taste, and this would be the traditional colorway.
And the customers are just walking in, so hello
ladies.
ladies.
We're live on Facebook today. You want to wave to everybody?
So that
Let
you
us know
are
if we can
aware.
help you. I'll just put them all on hold. So that would be the pretty colorway, because it's just a little bit softer and a little bit more delicate. And the contemporary colorway, which I'm always thinking of my partner in crime, Wendy Williams, because she likes really strong, bright purples and reds and aquas. So that would be the contemporary colorway. No party is complete without table decor, so I started thinking about the tablecloths and pretty fabrics that we might hang around, and this one would be the contemporary color, or the traditional colorway. And it's sort of a humorous nod to entertaining in Australia, because we always think that we live in this sun-drenched country and we can entertain outside, but every time I've invited more than 3 or 4 people over to my house to sit outside, it's raining. So just in case, I put little umbrellas in there to decorate the rainy scene. I mean, we have had people sitting in plastic bags at our table at Christmas, so. Then banners have always been really popular, so I've designed a little, how's that go?
Like that.
Yeah. Thinking about travel blankets on the elephants, I've pulled some just sort of travel blanket style shapes and used some diagonal stripes and some spots and some fun things that can be fussy cut or used as a background. That one being the traditional colorway, the pretty colorway, and
On the ground.
and our contemporary. So these are quite fun for, I don't know, I think they're a little bit different for sort of a little bit busier kind of a graphic print. Then we also have Party Land, which is quite, was sort of thinking about, you know, pineapple in our drinks and the little beach huts and the little island. And when I look at this, I inevitably hear a little bit of reggae music, dink, 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 you know, Bob Marley style. Yeah, so you can see there's some fun things to use up close, or you can isolate those squares.
Hmm? They want you to step further away from it.
Okay, and then all of the, this is sort of a nod to the champagne bubbles. You can see they're fizzy, big and small bubbles in there. So a lot of my customers have been talking about using these for appliquing bird bodies. It's also quite good as a spacer in your quilt, or for even as a background for applique. So that would come in the 3 colors as well. So that's Celebrate, and I'm going to show you a few different things made with that in a moment, but let me just see if there's any questions on here. Chris Gatlin. Oh, hi! My brother's online! Hi, Chris! How are you? One of the things as a designer and as a quilter that really got me going making quilts was using scale. In the beginning, as a self-taught quilter, I was intimidated by fussy blocks and fussy designs, so I kept looking through historical quilt books for blocks that had something that was pieced and something that had a big block in the middle. And I really liked the idea of letting the fabric fill that spacing block or those sashing strips or whatever it was. So when I started designing fabrics, I thought, wouldn't it be good to have something that was beautiful enough to hold those spaces? So with Flock Together, which was my first collection for Free Spirit, I created these medallion shapes inside these lines. And I really liked the way that if this was cut up, those lines would move in and out of the blocks, creating interest. And I find that with scale, one of the biggest questions people ask is, you know, do I need to cut that exactly in the middle of my square? Well, the answer is no. From a design perspective, it's actually more interesting to capture the lines moving in and out of the square because your mind gets engaged in that idea and it sort of slips out to what it can't see and imagines. And I like that little hook of thinking process that gets involved with using a larger scale fabric. Yes, I also have another couple of things I want to show you samples, but they're in a different spot. So Flock Together was all about the gathering of quilters and having them interact. Here's something that we made using Flock Together. It's a nice long bolster cushion, which I think would be really good on the sofa. In fact, one of my sons, who's just turned 21, asked me if he could have a bolster cushion for his bed, and I thought that's pretty good. They don't usually ask me for anything quilty, so I'll be making him one tonight as soon as I'm finished. So Flock Together was all about the structures of quilts, and another part that I really like to think about in the structure of my quilt is using a border. So I like to have a fabric that has something that can be cut off as a border, and then in the main print, or the main body of it, we have something we can use as a graphic stripe or you know, just a relief print from the design-oriented designs. It's the same kind of an idea as I've used here. You can see you can cut the border off and then use the center part to build in the structure of your quilt. Following Flock Together, I did Folk Art Revolution, which was something that really, I think subconsciously, it was part of the fact that we have a lot of political issues about people moving around the world and migrating to new places. And I often make the parallel to the pilgrims that went in search of religious freedom to the U.S. And I feel quite sorry for our current generation that they don't have the same kind of freedom when they move to establish a new life and to prosper. So Folk Art Revolution was sort of a nod to historical pilgrimage. And I used the very naive style of folk art drawing to create the little characters. So I had, you know, the patriots and the houses that they might live in and the ship that they might have arrived on, as well as I like to refer to them as, you know, the landed gentry and the country people. And I think these little personalities have quite a fun little spot for fussy cutting. They're all, you can cut them in squares, you can cut them in diamonds, and we've used those in lots of our different quilts. It's also quite fun as a backing because it sort of tells the story in itself as a piece. And then, of course, there are the prints that are sort of decorative stripes where you can use that as a little focus point print, or you can use it as a stripe in your quilt, and the colors are quite nice. So you might notice here in this particular, pardon? Oh, okay, we're back on? Is anybody asking me? Hi, Allie! Okay, it's good to know that there are some people out there. You might notice too that at Material Obsession we fill the blocks with a variety of different kinds of styles and designs. When a collection is brand new, we like to keep it consolidated because the designers have gone to such a nice effort to create a beautiful, cohesive collection. But the reality is that in the store, it'll sell through at different rates. So we start to take things and mix them up and bring things that we think are either complementary or contrast really well or just look nice in the picture to round out that design and to allow the customers to individualize it a little bit by creating their own mix. So I like to think that each one of these bays is a starting point for a particular quilt. So if you wanted to make a blue quilt, you could use a little bit of fabric from each one of those bays. Or if you wanted to make something that was red, you could use something from any one of these bays, and so on throughout the shop. The other thing that I like to, well, the other interesting thing I think about Material Obsession is the reps come in and show me the collections, and they're often quite surprised at what I buy, because we don't always necessarily buy the things that are trending or are popular. We buy things that we think are really interesting to use. For example, this stripe from the Artisan K Facet's Artisan collection, When this is cut up, it will add fantastic graphic energy, and it also is a great starting point for a palette. So something like this would be a must-have for a very long time in the shop. You know, Kaif is the consummate palette designer, and when you pick up one of his fabrics, it's quite clear that you could use that to pick all the colors that are going to go into your quilt. As a complement to that, you get the more graphic-inspired designs by Brandon Mabley, where he's often doing things that are spotty or stripy, or diagonal stripes or spotty stripes, all these different kinds of things. And these two kinds of design directions together are quite handy to use in your quilt. So you get your pretty picture, and then you get your spacing elements with your graphic prints. Yeah, here's another one from Folk Art Revolution, which has been really fun. Again, I'm looking for fabrics and looking for ways to use the fabric that you can either fussy cut in small bits or use in great big long lengths. Like a stripe like this would be fantastic cut out to do a strippy quilt. So you just have one long strip of this, you pull all the colors out and build your blocks in your alternating rows. And this one was also sort of a nod to Susan McCord, because I wasn't going to piece all those little leaves, so I just drew them up like her beautiful string-pieced quilt. So let's go look at some sample quilts. By the way, if this is a new conversation to you in your quilting and you're interested in delving in a bit more to how I think about the fabrics and how I get the individual mix with the fabrics, I've written all up 5 books. I mean, you might know us from the Material Obsession books, but from there I moved on to Making Quilts, which was a collection of quilts that were really explorations on my part. They were, for example, Soul Searching was a quilt that I used to really, a very simple block structure, and I was using that to create blocks of color. So this whole quilt was made from my stash. I just pulled 2.5-inch strips out from all the different color areas and pieced them together so that there were areas of contrast, there were areas of blending, and in that exercise I learned a lot about the quilter that I was. I also learned about the quilter that I wasn't, in that I could easily see when I went to make a block color what I collected, but I also could realize what I don't collect. So as a shop owner, I thought this is a really valuable exercise for all quilters to go through, because it teaches you what you naturally gravitate toward. So when you walk into a shop, you may be the person that walks over to the Aqua Bay wearing your aqua shirt and buying the aqua fabrics, but you probably don't need any more aqua fabric anymore. So that's a good opportunity to turn around and maybe develop your pink section or your orange section or your brown section. Also, working with contrast. I mean, Fractured has been a really popular quilt. It's been all over the internet. I mean, even the cows like it, see? Fractured is a lesson in contrast. You need to be able to create those dark and light lines through there. So in each block, the contrast varies, and that's quite an interesting way to study how you see line developing in your quilt. John Doughty just said, "I'm amazing." You'd think he'd know that since we've been married for 27 years. Get you later. Red Center is also a contrast quilt, but this one is a more basic use of contrast because all colors stand out against white or neutral. So that quilt has, or this book has lots of different kinds of exploration of pattern. And of course, it also starts introducing my love of the wedge ruler. So there's a few, that's just a basic use of the wedge ruler. And that's okay, and then also Garden Party, which I did in conjunction with Anna Maria Horner many, many years ago. This has been a super popular quilt, using contrast to create interesting flowers and then make them contrast against the background. The next book that I wrote was called Adding Layers, and this was really about the fact that as a basic quilter, I really liked to use one shape all the time. I used squares or rectangles for many, many years. Then I discovered the 60-degree, and then I, oh, he was just kidding, saying I was amazing. Very funny. like comments from somebody besides John. So this quilt this book is broken down into 3 chapters. One would be, the first one is all about using your stash and using shape to sort of group your fabrics together. The second one's about using tools, because I quite find using a template a really good way to work into my stash. And the third one is about scale. So this happened, I'm just going to show you this one thing and then we'll move on, but this quilt, that's a 60-inch block. And I absolutely loved exploring the changing scale, because I was looking at 6-inch blocks in an antique quilt, and I thought there's no way I can make all those 6-inch blocks. So I went to, I blew it up to be 60. But just to be a little bit crazy, I pieced the background with 2-inch squares. But I really like the idea that changing the scale of what you're looking at in your pattern allows you to create this imagery. And you can see what I was sort of talking about when I was referring to the medallions, that by having these bits moving off the page, your mind is going and filling in the rest of that basket. So, yes, so adding layers was really about having basic skills and then exploring them and adding layers of complication to what I was looking at and what I was doing as a quilter. Then the most recent book was called Mixing Quilt Elements, and in this book I really wanted to really explore a variety of techniques in single projects, because I find that we sort of tend to be, oh, I'm an applique artist, or I'm a piecer, or I'm a hand quilter, or I'm a machine quilter. But what would happen if you mixed a variety of techniques in one project? You'd be able to exercise all the different things that you've learned, and each time you come to a junction of, oh, how will I do that, or what will I do next, you have that opportunity to look into your toolbox and find something new to use. You might also be interested to know that my photographer is my husband, John Doughty. He takes all the photos, and it's quite fun when we go to shoot our books, because he takes me to places that I probably would not naturally want to go, and we get some really nice, interesting locations around Australia. So there's also lots of, if you don't live in Australia, it's a good way to see a little bit of what goes on. So this one keeps coming up. This is my little quilt Into the Woods, and what you can see here is I've used a lot of techniques that I liberated piecing. It was machine quilt as you go and raw edge applique. So this is one that I'm teaching at Quilting by the Lake in July. So if you're interested in working a little bit more closely with me and having a little interpersonal exchange, this will be, there's some spots available in that, and also in the modern wedge one, which is my Lovebirds quilt, which is somewhere in here. I think somebody ripped the page
will
up.
come past it when we walk
I'll
through
show you
the
that quilt
shop.
live.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to be in at the Quilter Studio in Fairfax, Virginia. I'm going to be with the Modern Quilt Guild in Baltimore, Quilting by the Lake, then the Modern Quilt Guild with the Quilter's Corner in Pittsburgh, and then finishing that July tour with Anna Maria Horner at Craft South. And that workshop will be doing Taking Shapes. So all of the information about my workshops coming up in the U.S. are on the website. So you can just go to materialobsession.com.au and you'll be able to join me live. Yeah. So let's go look at a couple of quilt samples.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I had one right here. Let's go. Kate.
Hello.
Hi.
This is Kate. She's visiting from Orange, yeah.
Orange.
So she's getting her daily fix from
Coming to hook you up for some workshops.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, stay tuned. We'll be doing some workshops. This is what I like to refer to as the wall of fun. One of the most amazing things about being a quilter is being able to learn something new every day. And I really enjoy working with shapes, 60-degree shapes, 45-degree shapes, and everything in between. My greatest fascination would be with the Mariner's Compass. Believe it or not, we had the props all set up, but somebody's moved them. I'll show you a quilt made with that. But any one of these shapes allows you to cut accurately, therefore the chances of sewing together accurately are greater, and it allows you to play with different kinds of fabrics and mixing them all up to get your own mix. For example, this is one that can you get me the Mariner's Compass quilt? This one is called Hazy Days. And it's just simply using 60-degree, oh, look at how beautiful that is on the back. See? Big scale prints are beautiful for backings. But in this one, it was using a 60-degree diamond in a star, and then in a diamond shape, and then the 60-degree triangles as setting. But this is my favorite kind of thing to do, to take one shape and then to just mix up all the fabrics so that they move evenly and fluidly throughout the quilt. This was the one that I did with the Fat Robin Mariner's Compass by Ruth. Sorry. Thinking and talking at the same time, not my strength. This quilt.
You should step back a bit.
Was every year in January I have a little bit of time off and I do something just for me, and this is what I did this year. The idea was to use my big scale florals, this one by Jennifer Pagnelli, and mixing it up with other prints throughout the quilt, not worrying about what style or collection, but just making little pockets of color that I like together myself. So each one of these could have taken me quite some time to pick the fabrics to go into it, and then I just pieced them together and set them on some Denise Schmidt plaids, because one of the things that I really like to do is mix a variety of designers together. And Denise has always been one of my favorites because she gives us these really beautiful fabrics that are great for appliquing on top of and using as, you know, just a little bit of light relief. You know, I tend to get just a bit busy in my blocks. So having these nice big open space backgrounds is quite nice. So here we have an Amy Butler, here we have Martha Negley, Jennifer Pagnelli, but just for fun, I also like to throw in something that's a little bit reproduction, and reproduction mixed with Kaif or Anna Maria Horner. And of course, the sashing is my way of saying, yeah, I make my own choices. I love this animal print used as sashing, and strategically I liked it because it wasn't just light or dark. It mixed both fabrics together, so it sat quite comfortably no matter what the block value was. I also like it because when I make a quilt, I like to have a little imaginary journey or a story in my head, and this one took me to my grandfather's pool room when I was a kid, and he had those really super dorky dogs playing cards, you know, those paintings or posters that were popular a long time ago, and I just sort of feel like I'm in somebody's pool den when I look at this quilt. And I think that's really important. Just a little block lying around to show you fussy cutting with the graphic stripe from Flock Together. Oh, wait a second. Let me take this opportunity to introduce you to my secret weapon. Hello! Wait, she's standing in front of my quilt. No, just kidding. This is Wendy Williams. She's one of our resident teachers here, and I call her my secret weapon because she is unbelievably talented in all levels, and it's a pleasure to be able to present her fabrics and designs and teaching skills to all of you. But she doesn't like to be on camera, so yeah. Here's a sample of, thanks Wendy, I know that probably killed her. There's a sample of using the feature pot from Celebrate, and I've just made these little funky frames in a sort of a turn-dash style block, and you can see how the fabric cuts on the vertical and on the horizontal, and then using the stronger colors to set the cornerstones. So that was kind of, that was quick and easy little quilt to make. Did you want to sneak by, Wendy? Yeah. The hallway at Material
Sneak by.
The hallway at Material Obsession is one way. Just as a note of reference, we are located in a 200-year-old sandstone terrace, which is a very typical style building for Sydney. We love it because it's really close to the city, so when people come to visit us from other countries, they can get here on a bus in about 10 minutes. And I love like the hardwood floors and the sandstone walls and the cozy feeling. And in addition, we have a kitchen, so there's often cooking and the smell of cooking, which makes quilting feel like we're all at home. And it's really quite lovely. Back on track. This is a quilt made by Carolyn Davis, who's been a part of the Material Obsession team since our very first day. Carolyn mixed together all different kinds. You know, we've got Folk Art Revolution, we've got Kay Fassett, we've got Tulip Pink, we've got Amy Butler, Jennifer Pagnelli. All the Free Spirit players are evident in this quilt. And then it's quilted with Pearl 8. In this case, it's the variegated version of Eleganza by Sue Spargo. And yeah, that's a really fun little quilt to put together. Here's one that we made using Folk Art Revolution and Julie Herman's Sidekick ruler. So that's a fantastic big triangle, and even though it's not squares, it's quite simple to put together. You just sew it together on the diagonal, so you're sewing straight seams all the time. Helena, who's my camera holder today, she made this quilt for us. When I was talking about using big diamonds, big scale prints, this was one that I did for Quilt Mania, or for the Simply Modern magazine, and it was using my the big medallion print and large scale 2.5-inch hexagons as frames. And I really like the fact that this is a throwback to very traditional style English quilts with the big medallion print in the middle, but it's also very modern because it's using Joanne, it's using contemporary fabrics. Hold on, I can't see that. Joanne asked your local shop to order it. Oh yeah, there you go. If you don't find my fabrics in your local shop, it's quite a good idea to ask your shop owners, because if they're listening to you and they're interested in keeping your business, they should be able to respond. I mean, not just my fabrics, anybody's fabric. I love it when customers ask me if I have something that they want, because it can't be everywhere all the time. And here we have Lovebirds, which is, go ahead. Thank you. This is from Mixing Quilt Elements, and this is one of the quilts that I'm teaching at Quilting by the Lake in July, using my wedge ruler, which is my favorite tool, little bits of hexagons, and a bit of really super easy applique. I didn't grow up sewing. I didn't grow up getting taught how to do applique by my grandmother, so I had to learn the hard way. And to be honest, I always thought it was for somebody else to do. And when I discovered applique, I realized it's actually quite fun, and we're so lucky to live where we live now because the tools are fantastic to make quilting a really good experience. So you have really broad stroke curved lines, like for example in the heart, and really easy shapes to applique down. But by the way, when you do a workshop with me, you don't even have to use the designs that I've made. We can come up with things that are more personal to you to make it your story. So let's go out into the front room. So here you see, this is our front room. You want to scan around the room?
Yeah, I was trying to do. Oh, look, a triangle cushion.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Here, this is a sample of what's being done in our classroom today.
beautiful.
This is one of our patterns for the triangle cushion made with the hexagons.
Which you can see on top of there as well.
Yeah, so we're looking at different shapes and different ideas. Yeah, there's a couple of pillows from Mixing Quilt Elements. But what I really wanted to draw your attention to was, again, mixing. Here we have a lot of Amy Butler's Splendor collection, which is quite beautiful, and some Heather Bailey and some Anna Maria Horner. But it's really exciting to me to see how this collection sits with all of their designs. So if I was looking to make a strong line in a quilt, I could use something that reads very warm like this and a very cool Anna Maria Horner. Even though you might think, oh God, I can't imagine those things together. When I put them together, I think, wow, that is a great combination of fabric. So I'm not looking for the obvious combinations, I'm looking for interest.
Like the stitching standard?
Or for example, having this with the aquas and blues, and again, complementing it with something that's a little bit warmer. But it's very interesting how these two different colors of fabrics pick up the highlights and interests in each one and make them really interesting. But of course, stripes. I can't walk by a stripe without buying it. Color consolidation, fantastic for binding, sashing, side borders, all different kinds of things. Stripes, people are often afraid of cutting them for fear that they're straight, but if you cut them across, you really actually don't have that much difficulty. So this is a really handy kind of a thing to look for. We're just picking Eleganza threads in variegated colors, or are we looking for a solid? This is one of our favorite new products, this little section of variegated in the Pearl 8. Her uses them for her embroidery and her applique. I use them for my quilting. You'll be using them for your quilting as well on her cushion. Wendy liked it so much that she started making little Celebrate cases with see-through mesh and these fun zippers, and they store all of her eleganza in there. And like, this is one of the clever things that she's done too. The threads come through the mesh.
Everything.
and it's got a clip there. Or very generous about giving away stuff, especially when it's somebody else's. Yeah. So you can see the shop is filled with samples of different kinds of, using the fabric ranges, using the different tools, and another thing I'll draw to your attention is you might see this Simply Modern magazine out in, sorry about that, it's a cow crossing. I've written a series of articles for Simply Modern. The most recent issue was on using scale. So if you're interested in exploring larger scale prints, you might want to pick this magazine up and have a read through. It just talks about how you might want to use your scale, whether it's large or small. And also, I interviewed some of our great teachers, Mark George, Sue Cody, and Megan Manwaring, and you might, and they've each given a little tip on how to get more out of their sewing. And just one more on that eleganza, and this is also an example of what we do, looking at traditional Japanese sashiko. This is a pre-printed panel, and then using the eleganza in the variegated to cover it up makes that very traditional kind of look a little bit more modern, or a little bit more material obsession, if you will. So, yeah, so I think the point that I really want to make today is about the community of quilting and the in-shop experience of actually sharing your creative spirit and with other people, about talking to people about what you want to do, about expanding your vision. I mean, I can be a very narrowly focused thinker, and I really like the fact that when I talk to somebody else, they might help me see things a little bit differently, and maybe move me away from a personal bias toward a color that I might have, or a structure of a quilt. But I like this idea of looking at something and saying, how can we do that just a little bit differently? How can we make it more personal? How can we tell our story so that when people look at your quilts, or when they look at my quilts, they know that I made it. They can clearly see the decisions that I've made, and that it's got my sort of style to it, which might be lots of different things. So, at that stage, or at this stage, did I forget anything, Helena?
No, I don't think so. No.
We did a practice run, and everybody started to hide when they saw that we were interviewing. So does anybody else have any questions they want to ask? I'm just going to flip through the bottom part and see if I have covered everything. Yeah, I like these thumbs up. Hi, Robin. Love that one. Whoops. So, girls at Free Spirit, is there anything else that you want me to talk about while I'm here? Nancy? Okay. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this little tour of material obsession and my babbling. You can follow me on Instagram at MattObsGirl, or you can follow the shop at Material Obsession. I have a blog that I used to write all the time. I'm trying to get in there once or twice a week, because I do really like to talk about the issues that I see in the quilting community and to share new product and new technique. Social media has added a great aspect to our quilting life, and I'm really proud to be able to reach out to so many people. And I know that you love it because our website's very active. We're selling kits and patterns all over the world to all kinds of people. My husband John has really been taking perfect good care of that. He's very attentive to all your needs, and he's learning a lot about quilting in the meanwhile. So yeah, keep up with us. I hope to see you in the States when I'm there in July. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. I'm really happy to respond to you, no matter what your questions or your concerns. So look for my fabrics in your shops, and hope to see you sometime soon in person. Bye. Just checking. Yes, we still have openings at Craft South, I think. You're welcome. I love sharing my store with all of you. I wish you could all come and visit. Hi, Jeannie in Toronto. Elise and Robin Long. Hi, Robin. Oh, yeah, this is Robin Long is joining us, and she's the maker of this really intelligent product. What I love about that is the instructions are fantastic. I have to sign off because otherwise I'll keep talking till the end of the day, and that could be very scary. Thanks very much for joining me, and thank you to Helena.